All right. Are we on? We're on.
We're on.
Let's see where I can put this so we can see each other. This is not ideal. You know,
We'll play the books or play those.
that's great. Thank you.
Or is it gonna catch the room?
Yeah, this is not ideal. So even if we just have audio, we should be good.
Okay.
That's not gonna work.
We're gonna do audio.
This is silly. All right, that'll get us started.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Me too.
How's your week going?
It's
over.
Yeah, still like just finishing up eye makeup, so it's just so nice because now I have prep time
Good.
starting yesterday afternoon, so
Good.
I feel energized to like implement everything that's been like with all the data. It's like okay, now I can plan better how to do this.
Great. I wanted to tell you that I was incredibly impressed with your analysis, especially as a first-time teacher analyzing data. I know it can feel really overwhelming when you mentioned that in your email, but I thought that your attention to detail, you definitely identified where students needed to grow, and your teacher action steps were actionable and pointed and just really strong to support the kids in the areas that they need to grow. So you should be really, really proud of that data because I think you did an amazing job.
Cool.
What are you proud of when you looked at the data?
It was really cool to see. Just mind you. I mean, it was really cool to see that like vocab and context was strong.
Yep.
And that with the answer responses, that kids were.
The written response?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, open-ended. Sorry. That kids were. They were getting there. Of course, not everyone's there, but it was just really awesome to see some kids who were like totally on it and just missing.
When you say they were on it, what do you mean
Like
by that?
great evidence.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on each kid, so that's why it's like.
But let's think about trends. When you say like I was happy to see that they were getting there, what are some of the things you noticed that you felt really good about?
For fifth grade, I would say strong arguments, naming like in the story this happened, instead of just jumping right into evidence, which I feel like a lot of kids just start writing that.
Okay.
In sixth grade,
So they had strong transitions.
Mhm.
Great.
and in sixth grade, using 2 pieces of evidence has been really nailed down.
Yep.
Need to explain it a little more.
Okay.
But what is it? And like certain students like Joel got a little higher
Yep.
the open-ended
I
responses.
noticed that.
Which is great. He does get modified materials, but then it's great knowing that he knows how to use them.
Yes.
Some students do get the materials and weren't able to use them, so that's another thought that I have is like I have to.
Well, let's not go there yet, but you're 100% right.
So it was good. I was really excited about Joel specifically.
What I want to look at now is specifically the annotations. Let's look at a reading passage that had both multiple choice and a short answer and reading. And I want to take a look at some of the student samples, and I want to pay attention to trends of what are we noticing the students are doing.
Okay.
So thank you for already organizing your high, mediums, and lows. Let's take a look at.
So this is fifth grade.
Okay, which is totally fine.
But I didn't grab the whole. I was confused. You want me to go grab the whole class and look at the actual booklet?
Did you bring?
I just grabbed 2 sixth grade.
You know what? We can look at those also.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's take a look at. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna have you. Did you have? Can we grab this one? Let's take a look. Would you consider you would consider him high?
For the open-ended response.
Yeah. Well, let's just think about in general overall. Maybe what I'll have you do is let's pull a high, medium, and a low from 6th grade.
Okay.
All right. Great. Thank you. No problem. I'm actually gonna go with you.
Okay.
Okay, honey? All right. And when you're ready, let us know. We're just going to start talking about data. So great. So obviously we won't use scholars' names, but we'll pull an HML.
Okay, we can do that.
And I'm going to take a look at this, and I'm basically going to be looking at strategies, specifically annotations.
Great. And we're looking at book one.
Yep. Or book 2, what would you prefer?
Book 1 had the longer essay.
Yep.
So
I think it's best to look at book 1. More to focus on for strategies, and it was the prepared passage.
This would be L.
Okay, thank you. And what would you rank this one?
Medium, but that's book 2.
Okay.
So,
And then your exemplar is here. Perfect.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I wrote up this as a page.
Great.
If I wrote off the full essay there, or if I typed it up.
That's not, we're specifically going to focus on the reading passage and the multiple choice today.
And this is
Are you on at 10:15? Great.
No, we're good. It's crazy day. Okay, do this guy.
Great. So H, M, L. Okay. And I actually want to start with yours, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And I want to take a look at as a successful adult who reads and comprehends well, what are you doing to access text?
Okay.
And obviously this is not like an extreme exemplar. But I am seeing some great things here. What are you doing?
Bracketing. This was a strategy that I learned how to do here to go back specifically to bracket where.
Talk to me about the bracketing a little bit.
That's where the multiple choice came from.
Okay.
Just being able to pinpoint as the exemplar exactly where the evidence is, so that when I'm working with scholars, to direct them to the right place.
Okay.
Not just being like, yeah, this one's A and it's found over here. Just being able to give them that direct.
So when you're bracketing, you're isolating the correct answer to the question. So then I guess my question to you is, are you reading the questions first? And then reading the text?
No, that would be sorry, that's the first thing. I would read the text, underline, and things that stood out to me.
Okay.
Adding things like why, in reference to why she thought she was changing to be cool.
Okay.
Go back, read the questions. Finish reading the text, read the questions.
When did these notes come in? The who, what, where, when, why. Is this something you did after you finished reading and before questions?
I think that was after reading. Should have been throughout.
So you know what? Because you were just doing this for you.
Yeah.
If this were a student exemplar, based off of the skills we teach in class, what exactly would this look like? Obviously, I understand you're in a different space than a middle schooler. What exactly would this look like if this was a 100% exemplar? What would I see? For a 5th or a 6th grader?
Yeah, for 5th grade, we're emphasizing the 5 W's, so it would say the who as you found it, so a lot of it would be in the...
And are you including some materials, or they're expected to write this first?
For modified, I will include the who, what, where.
Okay, so it's there first, and as they're reading, they fill in the answers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or in the margin, it's like who, whatever.
Okay.
So that would be everywhere. Then, also throughout the text, I would want students to circle vocabulary that they didn't know.
Okay.
Underline things that lead them, underline important details that lead them either to more so the why or the how of whatever's happening in the passage. Underline words that help them figure out, like context clues that help them figure out vocab that they don't know. A lot of times we're pushing annotations on, in 6th grade, point of view.
Okay.
Sometimes that'll pick
Yeah,
that
so
up.
what would the annotation expectation be?
So for like point of view over here, it would be written POV,
Okay, so they're
First person.
identifying first person.
Mhm.
What else should they be identifying as in writing as they're reading, other than these notes? Is there anything?
We want them to look at the prompt to figure out what the prompt is asking. So,
Okay.
This is great, but oh, here we go. Michelle's feeling about change. So feelings at the beginning, feelings at the end. So, and margin notes
Okay.
over here would be either underlined and then a little summary, not a summary, but a few words about what she's feeling. So here, wants to be popular, absorbed popularity and coolness, like wants to be.
Okay.
And I would want them to pick out that wants to be because, not saying that she is, but that's the desire that she has. And then
Okay.
down here, this is the beginning. Down here looking and saying, you start looking inside instead of out.
Okay.
Okay. Realizes.
And what are you writing right now as you're looking at this? What do you notice yourself writing?
My own words about what this, like what I'm learning. My own words about what this means.
Okay. So
yeah.
you're paraphrasing this key
Yeah.
idea based on how it answers the prompt. Okay. So with that in mind, that's what we want students doing. Let's take a look at their actual
Okay.
work. And I'm going to give you, I'm actually going to take a look at these while you are specifically looking at the book 1,
Okay.
passage and questions, not the OER.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is, what are some of the strengths you're noticing in annotations? I'm going to address this also. Strengths in annotations and some of the challenges or areas for growth that you're seeing. So I'm going to give us 6 minutes for this analysis.
Okay.
If you want to record it, that would be great.
Yep.
How are we doing, honey? You can go on to this side, so I'm going to give Miss Conway back her clipboard. Okay? Keep going. There you go. So yeah, you're recording. What are the great things you're seeing and what are the areas of growth that you're noticing students need to be doing with annotations? I'm gonna say so. So sorry. Alright, let's go here. Be back in about 5.
Oh, thank you. Do you still want it in case there's anything else?
Thanks very much. Alright, come on. Okay, so let's talk about, we sort of brainstormed around what exactly we want students doing. Let's take a look at the high student first. Or just in general, what were some of the strong strategies you saw students using pertaining specifically to annotations?
Chunking 2 to 3 paragraphs at a time. Not.
In order to do what?
To get the main ideas.
Okay.
Identifying point of view.
Okay.
Underlining important ideas as well.
Okay.
Details, more important details rather than the key ideas.
Okay.
And
Can you talk to me about these numbers?
yep, those are the evidence that she used to answer number 2, number 3, 6.
Great.
And then furthermore, annotating the questions,
Okay.
and you can cross elimination.
Yep, so when you say annotating questions, what do you mean?
So, which piece of evidence best represents the central idea? She ended on central idea. She knows exactly that she needs to think about the central idea. She can go back to her here, finding central idea. Down here, most important function in this section. So she knows, okay, look for that section. This is something that she'll do as she goes. It's not anything that she's really thinking about, but it helps her focus. In case she doesn't know it, can come back to it.
Okay.
Paragraph 11, so she knows where to look, the vocab word. Techniques, paragraph 6. So picking up vocab, picking out what she should be doing.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is chunking the text,
Mm-hmm.
a brief main idea note,
Mm-hmm.
looking for point of view,
Mm-hmm.
and also sort of coding
Mm-hmm.
with the questions, and then coding with the question number to find the evidence, going back to the questions, identifying the key components of the question, and using process of elimination.
Mhm.
Awesome. Anything you're seeing in the other 2 examples that is also strong and different than what we talked about?
Different. I would say the high hit on most. I mean, just different than for a lower student, more margin notes per each paragraph,
Okay,
just
so-
to get them.
So maybe now transitioning, what are you seeing that were some of the areas of growth for kids in terms of annotations?
So a lot of times,
Yeah.
yeah, like trying to get down for each paragraph. Sometimes it helps some students get through
Okay.
for comprehension, but we really got to push that the big takeaway doesn't come from one paragraph, it comes from key ideas of chunks, to pushing for 2 to 3 paragraphs, not one line for each.
So struggling to identify really what is highest leverage and most important to the text.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, a lot of their annotations may be like, they might just be the quotes. So rewriting the important quote instead of, which is a waste of time.
So what would you like to see them do instead?
Paraphrase.
Great. Yep. So a grow would be
Essentially quoting, be more paraphrasing.
good. Awesome.
And more shorthand. A lot of times they'll write like, this is about.
Yep. Yep.
Oh yeah, right there.
Yep. And
Or
so there's
the
not
adjective.
too long,
Mhm.
the actual,
Yeah, save
the
it.
actual note. Okay. And then when we look at the way they're approaching questions, what are you noticing that is an area where they could grow?
Process of elimination. I see them in class. They'll circle the right answer
And then
just
next
cross
up. Yep. Okay.
Um,
And did you add that? POE.
POE. Yeah. He's still picking out. I think his ability to pull out what the quote or what the question's asking for is strong.
Okay.
Maybe a little too long. Maybe not the most important word. Could shorten the phrases.
And then where does this student fall?
In the middle, I would say.
Okay.
Uses a lot of strategies, but the margin notes is the volcano mark. So not really getting at the impact that the volcano had, which is the big takeaway.
So what I'm noticing is that this scholar is identifying the key ideas.
Mm-hmm.
However, what do you notice between the key ideas and key words and the margin note?
More from the key idea could be put into the margin.
Absolutely. So we want the margin note to align with the key evidence the scholar's marking. So I think a grow would be that to utilize the key ideas noted to support the margin note.
Yeah, utilize underlined.
Because kids are great at doing this.
Yeah.
They're not actually using it as a tool to gain main idea.
Yep.
So I think this is a really good analysis, and it segues into what I want to talk to you about today. In your position, you're not just going to pull these 3 kids or pull your group and reteach one component. I know you guys are going to be doing this reteach as a whole class. So I want to talk to you today about some specific strategies you can employ as you push in or pull out to help with annotations specifically. What do you think the value is in focusing on annotations first before anything else?
Because that's where they start with a story, and also that can save them time in the end. If they're getting the main ideas down, getting the details to support the main ideas that they'll write their margin notes as they move forward to the prompt, they'll feel more confident that they know how to write because they were able to capture it and can refer back to it as something like, oh, I already figured this out.
Right, so if they're properly identifying keywords, properly identifying a main idea, they can properly summarize. What does that tell you about that student?
They're getting it.
They got it. They understand it, right? So check, great, you can move on and you can attack the prompt. So I feel like, especially looking at your guys' scores and where they're struggling, we need to go back to basics with annotation skills. So it's a replicable skill they can use time and time again to enhance comprehension. And then from there, build up to those more rigorous tasks. So I want to talk to you about what that's going to look like. And it's actually something I'm focusing on as well with some of my guys in 8th grade because it is that basic skill, like you were saying. They'll know what to do if they comprehend what's happening. So I'm going to just pull up my notes. I'm going to have you capture these as well, either here or in your computer if you're interested. You already identified what you noticed students were doing. Some of the really strong points, the chunking and the brief paraphrased margin notes, limiting those key ideas instead of underlining everything, and then identifying point of view and all those things. So what do you think students need to do differently to be more successful?
I think I'm going to encourage them to look at the prompt first. So that they're gathering details that relate to the question they need to answer, not just details they find interesting and are interesting. Like the earthquake one, the Mount Helens, like they're like, oh my gosh, look at this, whatever. And you're like, okay, this isn't getting exactly to the prompt. So I think starting there, identifying out of that prompt, like, okay, I'm looking for point of view and I'm looking for theme. My margin notes need to align with point of view and theme.
So let's talk about how we're going to do that. First thing they need to do is what when they're reading? They've read the prompt. They have a paragraph in front of them. What is step 1 for students?
Pencil and hand tracking.
And what are they looking for? Why is their pencil in their hand?
So that they, as they read it, they know something important, underlining.
Right. So what we have them do, it's not just circling vocab words they don't know, like key terms. So step 1 is they are identifying correctly key terms and ideas. So we always say circling key terms, underlining key ideas, which is what I'm seeing.
So
So that's definitely step 1. What is the second step to success towards accessing comprehension?
Chunking the paragraphs into...
How do they know how to chunk? Because it can't be random.
Right.
So what do they have to be able to do?
Identify connections between paragraphs.
Okay, so determine what?
That if ideas are connected throughout, like what the main idea of is of a few paragraphs, to create the margin note for that, because connecting the ideas.
But in order to connect ideas, what do you have to be able to do first? So in order to understand that paragraph 1, 2, and 3 are all about the same thing, what do they have to be able to do independently in paragraph 1 and in paragraph 2 and in paragraph 3 separately? What do they have to be able to do?
Get that,
details of they have to understand what each paragraph is about to then see that it's all about the same thing.
So continue reading and then going.
So how do we teach that skill? What do we do?
Well,
Think back to basic strategies. What needs to happen?
the thought process. I feel like I want to teach them questions. Like, what should I be asking myself as I'm reading?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm reading this. Okay, I'll move on.
I finished the first paragraph. What do I do now?
I'm going to move on to the second paragraph.
What if you're not sure you understood it? How do I know I understood what I read?
Reread it. Oh.
So they've read a paragraph.
Okay.
What do? They've properly identified keywords. They properly identified important ideas. Before they move on to the second paragraph, what do they need to do?
I'm missing.
No. I'm asking, what do you want a kid to be able to do after he reads a paragraph? What should someone
Like,
be able to do?
retell it or summarize
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
So that does need to happen for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So what would that look like?
When they're working, just like a quick, like, hit right at the end. Like, maybe, like, the low kid here, his notes were at the end of the thing, so just a few words about what it is before connecting to the big margin note, which is more the main idea.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A quick paraphrase, a quick retell. What was this about? And then really focusing on own words, right?
Yes.
Because the idea is it's really hard for kids to hang on to 2 paragraphs of information to determine if it connects to paragraph 3.
Mm-hmm.
So quick, 2 to 4 word retell. What was that about?
Mm-hmm. Own words.
Yep. Okay. So they need to be able to identify keywords and details, identify the main idea of each paragraph, if there is one, right? Or just be able to retell it. And then what do they need to do? They've read the whole passage. What do we want them to be able to do?
Be able to summarize the whole passage.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Summarize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what should summarizing look like? Where do they do that?
At the end,
Mm-hmm.
we tried. I think we were teaching 4 main details for most of our passages.
Okay.
Who are the main characters?
Yep.
Like, identify the setting, the characters, the topic being discussed, in the chronological order in which the main ideas happened.
How many sentences should a summary be?
2 to 3.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to move away just from fiction. It could also be for nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about basically, it is a paraphrase of the main idea of the passage, 1 to 2 sentences, right? So what should they be using to write that summary?
Their margin notes.
Exactly.
Yeah. 1 to 2. Yep.
So I want to stop there for now. Obviously, we need to talk about, a great day of the summary. Can they identify author's purpose? Can they identify structure? I want to hold that.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to focus specifically on, so we have student actions. Now we need to focus on teacher actions.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about aggressive monitoring in terms of rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Round 1, you're focusing on typically, 6 or 7 kids in a classroom. What should you be AMing for? They're reading independently, round 1.
Pencil moving and circling key terms and main ideas of the first few paragraphs. So I know that they're
Absolutely.
Not skipping.
Yep, and intervene if they are not.
Right.
So definitely round 1 is, are you marking the most important things?
Mm-hmm.
What should round 2 be?
Round 2, by the time we get through, when they should start and chunk the first few paragraphs. A lot of times ours look like, when I keep saying paragraphs, a lot of times they look like these short little.
So what I want your round 2 to be is actually check their retells.
Okay.
Yep. Do they understand what's going on? Because they're not going to be able to chunk if they can't unlock the meaning of each paragraph.
Okay.
It would be unintentional because they don't actually understand if things connect.
Mm-hmm.
So then your round 2 is me. Okay, yep, they're getting the quick. They can summarize each paragraph. What was it about?
Retell.
Yep.
Then check the margin notes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we want them to be brief.
Right.
Avoiding the regurgitation of the text.
And moving more towards that author's purpose.
Yes.
Connection from what's happening to the purpose.
Yes.
If that's what.
Right. So then your 3rd round is really that main idea.
Mm-hmm. Margin notes.
Yeah. And I want you to intervene quickly, with those targeted break it downs, which I know you prep, if they're struggling there. Or, but because you've intervened the other 2 steps, it should be much easier for them to access that. What should your final step be?
Okay, main idea, margin notes, or this final summary at the end, if that's where they are.
Yeah, so I definitely, if we can get to around 4, you've modified the materials, and you're checking that their summary, did they get it? I would highly recommend talking to Scott and Sanique about a pull-out portion of class for the first few passages here, so you can stop the show if you need to.
Yeah.
I also would like you to schedule a pull-out and model this process first. What's the value of modeling this?
So, like I was saying earlier, just kids need to know what they should do, like need to have the thought process of what they're doing. So a lot of times they're doing what they're doing because they don't know what they should be doing. So being able to model and think aloud. I have this question right here. Okay, this is what my response is. Like I can't ask a teacher right now, so I need to figure out, I don't know this idea. I'm gonna keep moving until I figure it out or stop. You know what I mean? Whatever the thought process is, because kids are able to hear that, and then when I'm writing it down too, they can connect the questions that I should be asking to the action that I'm doing.
And then they'll be able to
do it themselves with like supervision.
Right.
Word, but so that I can intervene, stop the show as needed.
So what I'd like to propose, and I want to hear kind of your thoughts about this, scheduling a pullout for at least 2 days within the next 2 weeks, where you have them to do an I do, we do, you do of these strategies. So you model it first with a shorter passage. We do it together. You can do turn and talk, stop the show, and compare. And then I do independently, where you're aggressively monitoring. Do you think that that's something you'd be able to do?
Yes. I feel like it's kind of been crazy lately, so now is the time after today, because we're starting a new quarter, the new book.
Okay. What book are you guys beginning?
You Don't Know Me.
I know very well.
In 6th grade. So
can we look at next week to see if there's a day that works with some texts to actually begin this process?
Yeah. No, because Scott and I have talked about it many times that like today we just did a lot of reteach, so the whole class was together, but we're moving for it. And in 5th grade, I'm gonna pull some of the kiddos that for literature circles just with me to teach
great
track.
Yeah.
We don't interrupt.
Right.
Social skills. Okay. Well,
and I think truthfully, aside from just the social skills, if we're teaching these strategies, that will eliminate some of those issues because they'll know what to do all of the time. I know the habits of discussion is different, but this is certainly higher leverage. Yeah. So do you have the week at a glance? Yeah, at the very top. Perfect. Let's take a look.
I did one for 6th grade.
Okay. Okay. Yep, so it's looking, same for me. So it's looking like your Monday, Tuesday, because it's the response. You have a lot of responsive data, so you're going to need to talk to your team about which text they're going to be using. Yeah. But what I'd like to see, and I'm actually going to have you record this action step. You can either just email it, to yourself and me. And I want you to send me a calendar invite so I can come watch. Yay. Let's do a pullout. Do you know what I mean when I say I do, we do, you do?
Yeah.
So you would do the I do, where you model this process, stopping at summarizing.
After each.
Yep, and then a we do, maybe you model the first paragraph and then they go into partners or groups.
Long paragraph.
Yep. But the entire process.
Okay, yeah, model paragraph.
So it would probably be 3 shorter passages. You could even potentially pull from the modified exam that they took. And then 3 would be a you do, where you're AMing 4 rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, totally doable.
Yep. And I think if we can be extremely consistent with habits, they're going to be able to access author's purpose and craft and structure so much easier because, like you said, they have the comprehension. Now I can answer the question. Now I can actually read the question and go find the evidence because I remember where it is because I was able to understand. And I think that's where the big gaps were when I looked at your kids' data. There's just some basic comprehension pieces missing, so they couldn't find best evidence because they didn't actually understand what the passage was about. And then with that planning piece you talked about with the writing, if they have great annotations, they're going to be able to pull that evidence and organize their thoughts so much better. So I definitely want to talk about finding best evidence and the writing piece at our next meeting, but I want to start today at sort of this fundamental skill. What do you think?
Awesome. No, totally doable. Because I know Scott and I have talked about some of the kids that do get like materials, but there's a lot of kids in that class that don't, but have been getting them in class. So when they came to the test, it was just like,
and that's a big issue and something we need to pull back on for quarter two.
So this will help them.
Yes, and
I feel like the pace a lot of times in that class is just like it's fast. So just like an extra, like using shorter paragraphs will be, or shorter passages will be the most helpful, so that we're focusing on the strategies that they're thinking through. To like confident in those strategies, then as they move towards those longer passages, they'll feel like, okay, I know what I'm doing, I know how to approach this, instead of like, oh my god, this thing is so long. Which is another thing that I felt like they should.
Sustainability is huge, especially if it is right. And we can talk before the next exam. You know, how can we help increase sustainability? I want you to feel comfortable choosing different texts than what Scott is doing also. If you feel,
with fifth grade we've used like ReadWorks, which is a resource that has tons of things. So I'm just gonna make sure the genre matches and use like the IA.
And we want to keep the rigor. But I want you to know, because you're going to have to do shorter passages, it might be okay to do something that looks a little bit different than Scott's class for these pullouts, but definitely just talk to Scott about that. Other thoughts?
I'm excited.
Yeah, I think this is going to be great, and it's something Mary and I were talking about with 8th, about it really, if we can get these fundamental habits in order, so many other things are going to improve. So many of the questions just relate to retail, central idea, whatever. So we need to teach them how to do that. And we need to be super consistent about our aggressive monitoring to ensure they're doing it. Because like Ross said, if we're not holding them accountable, they're most likely not going to do it.
Do have a question.
Sure.
So let's say like some kid is totally rocking like round 1 and 2 by the time he's the last kid, whatever, I hit. Rocking 1 and 2, do I just jump direct to 3 if he's
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely would. I think
just
he's there. And just awesome, keep going. And I think you want to have a separate round for everybody, but if he already has all that, let him go. You know, don't be like, I'm going to skip that even though I know it's right and come back. I think being flexible, being intentional, like right now I'm only looking for this. Right now I'm only looking, but if somebody has it and they're there, you can definitely push ahead.
Cool.
Okay. So definitely if you need help with this structure, let me know. And yes, send me a calendar invite for at least one of the days. And if Scott has any questions and he wants to talk to me, or the 3 of us want to sit down, let me know. But I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see you in action.
Me too.
Why aren't I in your thing?
I don't know.
How did you know I spelled my last name? I'm so impressed. Siagel. Yep. And you can always click on 2 and then type in the name. That's something else as well. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to see this and hear how it goes.
Me too.
And we'll definitely adjust if it's not working.
Cool.
All right?
Yes,
Thank you so much. Hopefully this filmed. We shall see.
Okay. And thank you